That guy come down at 8 o'clock with a load of sand, and he said, "Don't you holler at me, I work day shift." There was a night shift on.
But a 35-mile stretch through the Fraser Canyon near Boston Bar has claimed 19 lives in the last 14 months.
The railing doesn't do a bit of good if you're coming down a 130,000-pound semi-trailer.
Is that a pattern in this area? Semi-trailer, semi-trucks?
I don't know what you mean by a pattern.
That center strip is otherwise known as the suicide lane.
BCTV, we're coming through for you.
The Trans-Canada Highway is a lifeline between the BC interior and the Lower Mainland. But a 35-mile stretch through the Fraser Canyon near Boston Bar has claimed 19 lives in the last 14 months. Last December, for example, a semi-trailer nearly collided with another there on 9 Mile Bridge. One of them crushed through the guardrail. The driver was killed as his truck plunged 200 feet into the canyon. This picture tells the story. The northbound trucks have an uphill passing lane. That lane is also open to the opposing traffic going downhill and south towards Hope. That center strip is otherwise known as the suicide lane. Combine that with volatile weather and bad driving, and you get death on the highway. The accidents start 8 miles north of Yale. Last August, 2 killed in a 2-car collision. 1 mile north, 2 killed in a 2-car collision. A half-mile further north, in late August, another truck driver is killed. Bradley Hill, 4 people killed in 3 separate accidents between August and December last year. Near the Hell's Gate tram, 2 killed in separate accidents this winter. The death toll since January 1980 stands at 19. Sergeant Ron Halverson of the Boston Bar RCMP says the reasons are as varied as the victims.
On this particular accident, about 200 yards south of where we're standing, in the early part of August, there was a 2-car accident with 2 people dead as a result of the accident. It was a head-on sideswipe type of an accident.
Now, what were the road conditions like at that time?
At that time, the roads were wet. There was a light rain. It was the middle of the afternoon.
Okay, let's drive down the road a bit and find out where some of these other places are where they've been happening.
Okay, sure.
Because this is a major artery, the 6 officers at the Boston Bar detachment regulate all kinds of traffic, and in heavy volumes. In the past year, there have been 184 accidents. 46 have involved injuries. 15 have killed 1 or more passengers. The number of fatalities has doubled, but that has more to do with luck than driving conditions. The difference between life and death can be a matter of 2 feet.
Okay, right now we're about a mile north of where we start, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Now, we're on the Spuzum Creek Bridge. Tell me what happened here.
Well, early part of November, where the bridge bows out down there, there was an accident involving 2 semi-trailers. One very slightly involved. The other one hit the bridge, ricocheted across, and as a result ended up just behind us at the end of the bridge. There were 2 persons killed in that accident.
Is that a pattern in this area? Semi-trailer, semi-trucks?
I don't know what you mean by a pattern. There's a very heavy traffic flow of commercial vehicles through the area, and as a result, there's probably a higher number get involved in accidents than other places. But I don't think on a percentage basis they're any higher than passenger vehicles.
Now you can look at this road and it doesn't look that bad. Is this just a strange circumstance that these accidents happen here?
Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is the terrain, and if you're not, if you do get involved in an accident, you don't have second chances in a lot of cases. The traffic and the weather conditions on this particular night were good. The road was damp in places, but mainly dry. It was a late evening accident, but there was no ice, no snow, and it wasn't raining at the time, as I recall.
No, I think they burst into flames, and
this particular one did, yes.
Mm-hmm. Does that present a real problem to you? And the cleanup must be horrendous in these sort of things.
It takes a lot of time. In this particular case, the road was closed for maybe 2 to 3 hours while the fire burned out. We don't have firefighting equipment in the area, which is a bit of a problem to get the fire out in the first place. But then a tow truck to move the stuff off the road, it does take a lot of time and ties traffic up for an inordinate amount of time.
The scars on the highway remain long after the wreckage is cleared. This one happened in late August. 2 semi-trailers collided head-on and burst into flames in the early hours of the morning. Several hours later, police were still clearing the wreckage. One driver was dead.
It's typical of a commercial vehicle accident because of the loads they carry and this type of thing. Again, on this particular road, it wasn't bad. We didn't have to stop traffic because of the 4 lanes involved.
Is that unusual? You have 4 lanes here, 4 lanes, and it seems like a perfectly normal, easy road to drive on.
Yes, this is probably one of the better sections with the 4 lanes. There's a very slight curve and a very slight grade involved here. It is very seldom we get accidents in this area.
Because of the heavy volume of trucks, police have dealt with some spectacular accidents on this highway. But only a third of the 15 fatal accidents since January 1980 have involved semi-trailers. And it is not so much the road that is the menace as it is the landscape. Within a 42-mile stretch, there are 5 climatic regions, and the weather has been known to change in an instant.
Rod, we're very close to the Hell's Gate Tram, which everybody who's been through this road knows. Now, what happened in this area?
One person was killed, involved a passenger car and 3 semi-trailers, which was just across the road from us at this point.
How did that happen?
Well, on that particular night, as was mentioned earlier about the quick, sudden changes in weather conditions here, 100 yards up the road was wet and, braking, and that was good. From the corner here down, it was glare ice. The accident in this case was one car was on the road, or whatever happened, I don't know, but it was stopped, and a semi-trailer came around the corner, saw it, went to maneuver around it and couldn't. His truck wouldn't react and hit it, and then the chain reaction started with 2 other semis running into his vehicle. There was 3 or 4 other vehicles, semi-trailers and passenger vehicles, in the ditch for another 100 yards behind. But again, that's a prime example of a sudden change in temperature.
Nowhere are the problems inherent to the Fraser Canyon Highway more apparent than here at Bradley Hill. Between the middle of August and late December last year, 4 people died in 3 separate accidents. For a long time, the Department of Highways has been studying the passing or suicide lane. The operations manager for this area is Bob Beach.
There is an ongoing study has been taking place regarding 3-lane sections for the last 5 years.
Get rid of suicide lanes.
Well, I don't know whether that's the name for them, but certainly the RCMP has been involved with our traffic branch in headquarters, and they have been studying the ramifications of do we or don't we stop passing going downhill.
Yeah, is that going to happen? Is that a new policy?
I understand that the word has come out to us now that the policy is established that we will put a double solid line on 3-lane sections so that there is no passing legally going downhill.
No more passing going downhill now. Double yellow lines are not going to stop anybody if they're in a hurry. Isn't that true?
Well,
I mean,
I think that people's attitude must be that they should obey the law, and then certainly that if they do obey the signing, then it's safer for them, and that's what we're interested in.
Now, generally speaking, there seems to be an inordinate amount of semi-trailers involved in these accidents. Now, do the facts support that, or does it just seem coincidental?
I'm not sure that that's a factor. There is a lot of truck traffic in the canyon, and I don't have the figures in terms of the percentage of trucks versus cars. I would say that fatal accidents, if there is a truck involved, obviously it's a big object, and certainly that would tend more to have a car become involved in a fatal accident.
Now, I've heard a truck driver tell me that Highways doesn't come out here and sand until somebody's dead. How do you respond to that kind of argument?
Well, it's not true. That's about all I can say. We have a policy of, in the Fraser Canyon here, of 24-hour coverage, 7 days a week. This is during the winter months.
Now, Ron, what about this thing about the semi-trailers? From your experience, you patrol this road every day. Now, Is there a pattern in these semi-trailers getting involved in these accidents?
I really can't say that there's a pattern of accidents involving semis. We get complaints, numerous complaints about the operation of commercial vehicles from passenger vehicles. On the other hand, we get complaints about passenger vehicles holding trucks up on hills, slowing down and then speeding up from the commercial vehicles. So there's a pattern, I guess, but it's one against the other almost.
Two-way street, so to speak. Everybody's got to play fair on the road. Is that put it simply?
Yes, that's right. Again, I mentioned earlier about over-driving to the conditions, and I think they apply probably more so to a commercial vehicle than they do to a passenger vehicle. I don't think that's a pattern in what you meant, but that is one of the observations I made in this area.
By the time the tourist season rolls around again, it will be tougher to pass on this stretch of the highway. But because of the weather and the landscape, it is unlikely much else.
In the meanwhile, however, I believe I've got some calls on Steve's excellent piece of reporting on the forgotten highway between Yale and Jackass Mountain, 19 dead in 14 months. From Kamloops, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Joe Whitten. I'm a truck driver.
Uh-huh.
I drive the canyon every night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that writes all the letters.
Mm-hmm.
The editors up here. How come that the Department of Highways hasn't fixed the bridge there at Spuzzum Creek yet?
It had just happened. How long before was it, Steve? You mean the broken railing?
The railing is still bust. They haven't repaired it. Same thing up at 9 Mile Canyon where our buddy from Merrick dropped 600 feet straight down. They haven't fixed that bridge either. What do they want us to do?
No, there are temporary boards in that, but you're right. There's still a big hole in that first one, which is where?
Spuzzum Creek?
Sputzum Creek.
Spuzzum Creek.
Sputzum Creek.
Yeah, that's where those two guys from Abbotsford laid on their side and the guy had his head torn off.
Oh, don't give me the details, please.
Well, okay, go on up to 9 Mile Canyon. They haven't fixed that bridge railing yet either. That guy dropped 600 feet straight down before he died.
Steve, you better ask the Highways Department when they're going to fix these holes. Mind you, the bridge doesn't, the railing doesn't do a bit of good if you're coming down a 130,000-pound semi-trailer.
It'll sure stop a car if a car hits it. What if a car hits that bridge right now?
Oh, look, are you glad we did the piece?
Come again, Jack?
Are you glad we did that piece?
Boy, I'm telling you, Jack, I could come down there and kiss you. I'd kiss any man right on the cheek to get them damned highways guys out of their bed down there and get some sand on that road. That's the absolute 100% God's honest truth when they say that they won't sand it until somebody's dead.
Steve went into that fairly solidly, and I was talking to some truckers this morning. Matter of fact, they were in the office with a guy from the TDU.
Yeah.
And they are prepared to concede that the Highways Department does the best it can, but there may be many a stretch of black ice of which nobody is aware at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Jack?
You know perfectly well you can have black ice in one part, a thaw in another part, and freezing rain in another part of that highway.
When Sonny Thorpe burnt to death 2 or 3 weeks ago at Spence's Bridge, that guy come down at 8 o'clock with a load of sand and he said, "Don't you holler at me, I work day shift." There was a night shift on, and my letter to the editor said night shift because there was no sand anywhere. Nowhere on that road. We couldn't even stand up.
There is a 24-hour sanding crew, I know, and I know there are problems, but the object of the exercise this morning was the principal thing, whether there's black ice or no black ice, is what speed you're traveling on the highway.
Sure, it's what... Jack, when I run up and down through that canyon every night of the week, I know what I can do and where I can do it.
But even you don't know. If you've got a double trailer behind you with 132,000 pounds on you,
Yeah.
what can you do if you hit a strip of black ice and you're traveling at 55 miles an hour?
Same thing I used to do when the waves used to come over the ship when I was in the Navy. Pray.
And hide.
Pray, boy. Just
Anyway,
pray.
we'll check the highways on the broken bridges,
Yeah.
and we'll do a little piece tomorrow morning, perhaps take a clip out of that, and find out when the railings are going to be back in place again. Although, as I say, it doesn't do a damn bit of good for a semi-trailer, but it might help a small car.
Might help a small car, Jack.
Good call. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack, I'm a commercial traveler, and I drive between here and Alberta considerably. And I know at times that I get completely frustrated coming along the freeways, not because of the conditions of the roads, etc., but an awful lot of these semi-trailers or trailers that come down, going up the hill, they're fine. They stay in their lane, and you'll be traveling at your 55 or 60 miles an hour, whichever the case may be. But on the downhill grade, they come down and they actually intimidate you. They're right in your back window, and if you don't go beyond the speed limit.
You know why, of course. He's building up speed to get up the next hill.
I realize that, but regardless of the situation, the speed limit is set at 55 or 60, whatever the case may be. And I know that these fellas have to get through to make up their time. I realize this. But the conditions of the roads, because of it being hilly and a lot of climbs on it, and I know I've had them, the lights, especially in the early evening, the lights right in my back window that I was afraid he was going to be right in on me. I've done that with many trucks. I know that they're in it to make a living and they have to make time up, but at the same time, there is a speed limit. They talk about
Oh, I agree with you entirely. And the other point that we didn't get a chance to raise this morning, last summer when I was off the air, I remember being horrified by a report which I later saw in the papers and saw on television, that some fantastic percentage of trucks stopped by the RCMP in the interior of British Columbia were defective in one way or another.
Yeah.
Remember that report?
Yeah.
60-some% of the vehicles didn't pass the RCMP roadside checks for brakes and safety equipment.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, but you're right. I've been come down some of these long stretches with a huge truck battling behind me, and you don't know where to go.
That's right. You get in those three lane areas, and it's going uphill. As long as there's no traffic coming at you, it's fine.
But I'll tell you this: the next time I drive through the canyon, I'll know something that I didn't know before Steve did that report. That 19 people died in 14 months between Yale and Jackass Mountain.
And you know yourself driving through that area that basically the conditions, other than those which we have no control over, like such as the black ice, etc.
Can I see that television again on the air?
Pardon?
I was just asking the crew a question.
Yeah, as I say, except for the Mother Nature with the black ice, basically those roads are in fine condition to drive on. They're 3-lane, they're 4-lane.
Well engineered.
Basically, as far as I'm concerned, I put down in so many cases it's the driver. It's not the road.
But it's not just the truck drivers.
No. It's the drivers. I'm talking about drivers in general. I've tried as much as possible, and I know I've done the same as everybody else. I've broken the speed limit on occasion. But I try as much as possible.
Okay, but let's get the message across loud and clear that stretch of highway in the canyon is a killer, it's dreadful, and that it's a responsibility of the driver.
That's right.
To follow the limit or less than the limit, depending on the weather.
On the conditions, that's right.
I'm much obliged, commercial traveller. What do you sell?
Well, I'm in toys and games and stationery.
Toys and games? Well, I don't have many toys except little things like this, which I'm going to throw up again just to impress on you. Let's see the telemation on the location of the accidents.
Yeah.
Can we flash the little stars? There we are, Yale North. Again, another one. Let's see all the wee stars. Flash them.
That's good. That's good animation. I like that.
So do I.
I'm involved amateurishly with home movies, and these are the sort of things I like to do, the titling, etc.
I remember in the good old days in radio, I could come in a golf shot and do whatever I liked and sit behind there smoking and looking my reprehensible self.
Now you have to look beautiful like you do.
We should get that camera up higher and hide this chin. Anyway, it's a good message, a good report by Steve. We'll check on the holes in the doohickeys and we'll take a break and come back for a free-for-all after these messages. No sooner said than done. Here is our friend Bob Veach, the operations manager for the Highways Department, and I must admit that I accepted the hole in the bridge at Spasm Canyon. When will that be repaired, Bob?
As soon as possible, Jack. Right now we have cables strung across there and tightened up with tension on them so that they would in fact stop a car if it did hit them, I believe.
Right.
We have difficulty getting the fabricators to change their various jigs and so on to make these special rails when we have an accident, because each one is different and they do have an added cost if they're going to do this.
You can't carry spares for these kind of things because you never know what's going to be destroyed.
Yeah, that's correct. All these bridges have different standard and different length rails, and I guess that's the way our system seems to work.
When do you think the Sputsum one will in fact be repaired with proper rails?
I would hope within the next couple of weeks. I was talking to our assistant deputy minister about this day before yesterday, yesterday it was, and he is putting some pressure on that we try and get the delivery of these as soon as possible.
Good. Now how about 9 Mile Canyon, where we showed the wooden strips between the broken fence?
The same thing there, Jack. We're attempting to get these rails as quickly as we can, and as soon as we do get them, we'll be putting them back into place.
Just one last question, Bob, although I know this was covered by Steve in his interview. We do have 24-hour sanding coverage in the winter, don't we?
That's correct, yes. We have 24-hour coverage 7 days a week. There are 2 people on each of these shifts, and when they find that there's a storm coming in and they need assistance, the assistance is there, and we augment the crews.
Well, I'm very grateful for your cooperation, and if we can get the message across that despite guardrails or despite double lines or despite anything else, in the final analysis it depends on the speed that the driver's traveling and the manner in which he is driving. Right?
That's correct. I believe that that's what the Motor Vehicle Act says in Section 19, that the driver should drive according to the conditions.
That's right. And
we hasten to say that sometimes drivers run into conditions they don't expect around the corner in the Fraser Canyon.
Because were you saying that conditions could change and how quickly and what space of time or distance?
Well, we have had operators go out and patrol through, and things are fine, and they go back an hour later, and there are icy sections where we get a freezing rain in one particular section.
Grateful for your cooperation. Perhaps the people who are watching this morning will drive a little bit slower through the canyon if there is any doubt about the conditions.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much, Bob Veach, Operations Manager for the Highways Department. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to speak for the ordinary passenger driver on that road.
Right.
We used to live in the interior, and we've traveled it many times. If you drive the posted speed limit, you're holding up traffic.
I'm afraid so.
Generally.
I'm afraid so.
And in summer, the recreation vehicles slow traffic, and they don't have the courtesy to move over into the slow lane, and they really hold things up.
It happens all the time. I had a narrow escape from death myself the other side of, I think it's Kanaka Creek. Coming back from Kamloops, and it was entirely my fault the last time. A dog crossed the road, and I slowed for it, and then the dog's owner darted out, and I put my brakes on at 65 miles an hour, went round 3 times, finished in the ditch, bounced out again, finished in the opposing highway facing towards a giant trailer truck. I managed to move out of its way about 25 seconds before it slapped through where I would have been. Terrifying.
Well, that's rather hairy.
But it teaches you a lesson. Doesn't matter if
one
you...
other point I'd like to make is that the transport traffic is always heavy on that stretch.
I know.
Highway.
One critical word, some of the employers of the truckers demand more than their pound of flesh. And a man may be carrying 2 semi-trailers behind him, and he's making about 8 or 10% extra for his work while the employer is collecting double for the work, and of course the driver is pushing with these incredible, I think they call them V-trains or B-trains or something. And I'm maybe not quite so sure that all the trucks are as safe as the employers or the owners should make them.
Well, I found them a particular hazard if you're driving at night. There's a lot of transport traffic there in the daytime, but they barrel out at night.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a good report anyway. I'll tell you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Jack, I drive one of those B trains you're talking about.
Is it B train or V train?
B as in Bob.
B as in Bob, yeah?
Yeah. Although I don't drive the Fraser Canyon as much anymore, I drive the whole Princeton. The Department of Highways up there, it seems, a lot of drivers that I talked to on that road would rather drive the whole Princeton in the wintertime.
Why?
Well, they're prepared for the snow up there.
Well, the canyon's a better highway.
Yeah, but they're prepared for the snow on the whole Princeton. They're out there a lot of times. They know where there's going to be ice. Now, they come by, it's bare and wet. There's no ice, but they still sand it. Even now, they're up there, the road is dry, and they sand that corner because they figure there's about a 50% chance that it is going to freeze and ice.
Why would that be? Why would the Hope Canyon be more predictable than the Hope Princeton be more predictable than the Fraser Canyon?
Well, they've got more equipment up there. And it's a shorter distance.
So you will drive the Hope Princeton as a matter of safety, not distance?
Yes. Well, we only go to Princeton. But with cars and trucks, I find there's a lot. Like, there was an incident that happened to me just coming into Hope last Friday night. I was going up the last hill before you get over the top into the town of Hope, and there was a pickup truck driving about 40 miles an hour, 50 mile an hour zone. So that's fine. I hung back, and I was empty. I don't carry a load going up. So we got around past Silver Creek, and I pulled into the passing lane and started to pass him.
Mm-hmm.
I got about 3/4 of the way past him.
And he puts his foot down.
Oh, yeah, he started to speed up. So then...
Oh, enough of that. I haven't time for the story. I know exactly what happened. Thanks for your interest in the program this morning. And all we can do is say to people, for God's sake, drive sensibly and sanely, especially on the Fraser Canyon. Thank you very much. I'll take a break.